right, so we're going to ask a few questions right now before we get going again. So go ahead, Teresa.
So my question is, you had mentioned, we have to think about the major question is how many people for how long. So I was curious how you came up with your number and how we should go about. Is something we just for because we know that's coming. That's what came to mind when I was thinking about it.
Well, as a believer, I would want the comfort of knowing of whatever the Lord tells me. If He tells you to do it, He's going to bring provision to enable you to do it. I mean, when we were in Arkansas, the two different properties we had there, ours was our mandate was 20 people for 2 years. I didn't just say I wanted food and water for 20 people for 2 years. It was more complete than that. The mandate was to have supplies, tools, knowledge, equipment, materials to be able to build, fix, sustain, repair anything needed to sustain 20 people for 2 years. That is huge. I mean, we had a good bit of money in an awesome place, but at the end of our tenure there's still a bunch of stuff. When it came down to Y2K, there's still a few ways we'd have been in trouble. We didn't know security well enough. I mean, Dave Renier, the guy that teaches security on the 5 videos on our website, he says that if you have like a quarter or a third acre lot in a city, that to fully secure that 24/7 takes 24 people. And there I thought me and 3 people was going to take care of 300 acres. I mean, yeah, right. I mean, we were like on an island. We were just out there. It was our utopia, and we just thought we were going to get it done. I mean, we had the river as a kind of like a castle on a moat, but that helped a little bit, but still. Anyway, there were things that we were a little naive about that we've learned more now. We don't know it all now. But anyway, yeah, as a believer, I'd want to hear it from the Lord, because then He's going to enable you to do it. Now,
so with your preparation back, did you have to like liquidate everything when you moved out here, or did you move the stuff you stored out here to Kansas City? Like, what do you do? Like for me, I'm here in Kansas City, but potentially I could be moving to like China. So, yeah, just kind of thinking, did you actually like?
No, we moved it.
You did move it.
We moved it. Now, let me quantify that for you. I mean, I left the generators and some of the stuff there. I mean, the guy that bought the place from me he was similar minded. He liked the fact. And so I got that as part of but I moved the food. And I mean, I had, food-wise, we had 1,250 5-gallon buckets. 54 different dry things, dry products in it. And we had 3 pallets of different barrels of oil to be able to change oil in our vehicles. I mean, we went to great depths. And we moved a lot of that stuff. We sold some. Just making a move like that's a good way to purge some of it. I mean, but your food, rather than replace it over there, I think your food, if stored well enough, would be worth loading a container and shipping it. I mean, you're not going to move your solar panels. You're not going to move some of that stuff, but you should get a value for them if you had to sell your place. So, but that was a 2-sided question. You said, what was it then? What is it now? For us now, it's the Lord told us, like back in 2008, that it's 10 people for 3.5 years, privately. And of course, I hope to leave the Army publicly.
Do you recommend dry storage over like wet products?
No, I do both. I mean, I have all the dry stuff, but I have a lot of canned goods too. You don't have to worry about it, the expiration dates on canned goods either. I mean, the Lord, even before I was a believer, He provided. When I first started this stuff, I lived fairly close to my oldest sister. And I'd go visit her all the time, and I didn't even have to get in a car. I could just go a few blocks in my wheelchair and go visit her. But next door to her lived a research scientist for Anheuser-Busch he was a food research scientist, and he developed new fast food products for Anheuser-Busch and some of the subsidiary companies that they had. And so I had him at my disposal to ask questions. I mean, he's the one that told me about how to kill bug eggs and dry things. You know, he's the one that told me that with canned goods, he said the American food industry are so anal about liability that they do their job really well, and that with canned goods, unless the container's punctured or if the product gets contaminated, it'll swell out. So unless it's rusted through, punctured, or swelled out, you can eat it. It won't kill you. It won't hurt you. Now, if you leave things out in your garage and go through temperature, fluctuation really bad, you can eat stuff. I mean, it's like you can put a bucket of wheat in your garage, and in 15 years, it may not have enough nutrient value for your body to digest it. It's literally possible to die of starvation with a full belly. You can eat something that won't kill you. It'd be like eating cardboard, though, that does not have any nutrient in it. And so,
like for vitamins and stuff, is the expiration date pretty, because I bought a whole bunch of vitamins and they're all expired, so I'm wondering if I should throw them out, or
I would. Now, I can't say that on the internet, but I mean, I wouldn't do that with canned goods, and I have no problem buying outdated canned goods. There's actually a line of stores that just got started from executives from Aldi's, I think. It's from a big chain, or Trader Joe's. And one of those executives actually started a new line of stores that everything in the store is expired.
And that's legal?
Yeah.
Oh.
Expiration dates has nothing to do with legality. It's only there. Manufacturers put it there to keep product moving. They want that store to have to throw it out. They want them to have to buy some more. But I have. Were you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying.
What?
The bargain factory. It sells expired stuff all the time.
Well, yeah. But we have some friends. Oh my gosh, they'll go to the store and they'll give them hell if they get home and find something expired that was on their shelf. And I mean, they're on it. I mean, on it. But I mean, Grace and I, matter of fact, this last weekend, I made like 5 gallons of split pea soup. We stored those split peas in like 94, what was on the bucket? 94, 99, it's back in the 90s. Back in the 90s. Same thing with our lentils and pinto beans. I mean, that would just freak out some people. Yeah. And I use canned goods that I probably bought 10 years ago. So. Anyway, any more questions? Okay.
What about foraging?
What about what?
Foraging in a time of crisis. Being from Montana, being a hunter, we can go out and there's plenty of woods.
Yeah. My opinion is, being around here, I can't tell you how many people I talk to that say, I'll just go hunt something. Me personally, I don't want to be in the woods with a bunch of idiots like that out there. I mean, they shoot first thing moving. Especially, for me in my house, I want to be able to stay put in the beginning of any happening or chaos going on. I don't want to be out amongst and having to. I mean, I really don't have. You know, people talk about getting their go bag and heading for the woods or whatever. It's really not an option for me. I have to hunker down and be where I am because it takes too much to keep my body going until Lord heals me. So, yeah, that's not an option for me. Now, I understand that some people think that they can do that, but I'll challenge them to watch Dude, You're Screwed or some of these. Have you heard of that show?
Mm-hmm.
There's a show that plays on National Geographic or Discovery Channel, and they're on something. Dude, You're Screwed is a good one. It is this core of like 8 or 9 guys that are experts in survival. I mean, they've come out of Special Forces, they've come out Navy SEALs. They're all these high-level trained people. And the premise of the show is that these team of guys, they get off on and they surprise their victims. I mean, each of the guys get teamed up on by the other 8 guys, and they just pick them up and they drop them off in the middle of the jungle of Malaysia, or they drop them off on a glacier in the Antarctic. I mean, they drop them off in these places that are just crazy. But the first show I ever watched was one of them got dropped off in the middle of a jungle. I forget what country it was. But this expert couldn't find food to eat. By the end of 3 days, he was so delirious from lack of calories that he couldn't even talk right. So if some of us novices think that we're going to go out in the woods and make a go of it, I think it's a little naive for me. I mean, watching those shows, I kind of thought that you could read a book and learn about herbal plants and this plant and that plant and make it okay. But watching that show has changed my mind on that. I don't believe it. That's my opinion. So I'm just going to go down through these topics a little bit, just to kind of peek that. I mean, give you an idea how much there is to talk about. I mean, just in food alone. I mean, food encompasses gardening. It encompasses if you garden, you got to think about garden tools. You got to think about many things. You got to think about soil, where you're going to grow. You got to think about, well, if you're garden, you got to have seed. So you got to think about seed strategy. Many different kinds of food storage. I mean, you can get freeze-dried, dehydrated, but then to be able to, for instance, if you get wheat, you're going to make bread, then you got to have a grinder. So, I mean, there is a lot. There is, and I hope through a process of talking and to make it simple and to help y'all not have to make mistakes that I did through trial and error. But and just to prove a point, though, like on seed, I'll make examples. There's this bag of seed on the table right here. Just pass it around, Matt. That big bag right there.
Big one?
Yeah. That right there is a 7-top turnip seed. I found out about it when we had the 300 acres. 7-top turnip seed is a hybrid. Most of the time you hear people talk about, I gotta have perennial, I gotta have perennial, I gotta have perennial. Well, I say, not necessarily. 20 to 25% of my seed that I have stored, and I've got quite a bit stored, is hybrid. This hybrid in particular is, it's a turnip seed, but it doesn't grow a turnip. It's been hybridized to grow just the greens. Because it doesn't grow a turnip, it never knows when it's done. It never knows when it's finished. As long as you keep cutting the greens, it keeps producing greens. And so we planted some in our chicken pen in Arkansas. I think we had a half acre fenced in, and we planted some on a 1/4 acre, and it grew all winter long. So, I mean, we feed chickens all winter long with a little bit of supplemental feed like calcium or whatever. They don't get calcium out of that. But it's a good tool. I mean, it doesn't get quite as cold in Arkansas. It might not grow all winter long here, but I think it would. So, I mean, if not else, if you didn't have chickens, you could mow it. I mean, if it started getting too big, just mow it. And, but when you go to the store to buy seed, I mean, you get a packet, like that little white packet that's on the table. You get about 80 to 125 seeds, and it costs $2, $2.50, something like that. Well, this is 5 pounds, and I bought that for $5 a pound. You pay $2.50 for a packet. You get 100 seeds. A pound has 195,000 seeds in it. So for $25, I've got like 960,000 seeds in that little bag right there.
Is there a shelf life for seeds?
Yeah, there is. I mean, over time, they'll get less and less germination rate, but you can test it. The key to seed is, it's like what I did back in '08. I have a list of 300 different seeds that I bought. Spent about $8,000 on seed in '08, and just doing it. And I have an airtight containers. It takes about if you get like a Glad bowl with a snap down lid, it's an airtight container, and it'll hold roughly about a pound of seed. And so all the seed we have in those Glad containers in boxes, organized, and we have on my list, my Excel list. I think I sent you a copy, Teresa. I have numbered in what box it's in and so on, but we keep it frozen and it stays viable.
So how long can you keep it for? You do all those measurements?
I think it's indefinitely.
Indefinitely?
Yeah. I mean, it's what all the seed banks do. I mean, Bill Gates and several other wealthy people have gone together, and they've got in Greenland or Iceland, they've got this locker that's underground, real far underground. They keep it at like 30 below zero. Now, to be viable, you need to definitely be below zero. You can't just stick it in a home freezer that's 10 degrees. You know, a lot of those things don't get down to zero. You need to really make sure that you're at 0 or below. I don't know if you know this or not, but at 10 degrees above zero, at 10 degrees Fahrenheit, bacteria will still grow. It'll be hard, and you make it think it's frozen, but some bacteria will still grow. So anyway, as far as food storage, we have all the buckets and the grains and the dry stuff, but we also have canned goods for instant food. That, I mean, you don't have to hydrate it or anything, but we have the dehydrated freeze dried too. So I mean, we have kind of across the board. Going back to the thing about preparation is one of the goals is to give yourself as many choices as possible. With as many choices as possible, you have the best chance of being able to live a life of dignity in adverse situations. So anyway, I don't want to go into as much detail tonight on each of these items, but just as diverse as food is, so is water. I mean, you have to have a source of water to begin with. I mean, in adverse situations, it doesn't matter if it's dirty water. It didn't have the ability to filter it. But you have to have water. I mean, we have a place about an hour south of here, out in the country. It's so far out in the country, you got a dirt road for 4 or 5 miles. But they say that because of fertilizer and a bunch of several other reasons, they say the groundwater isn't any good. But it doesn't matter to me. I want to put a well in there because you can filter stuff out of water. You have to have water to filter, though. I mean, so have a source of water. depending on what that source is. I mean, behind us we have this lake. Don't know in a drought how long it would last, but it is a source of water, and so we just have several filters. The dirtier the water, the shorter life of a filter. So depending on what your source is, I mean, that gravity filter we have in the kitchen, it lasts almost a year because we're filtering. We use it to filter tap water, just to get some of the chemical out of it. But if we started using that to do lake water, it probably wouldn't last a couple of months. So you need a lot of replacement filters. Power. We're going to go into that in a lot of ways. I hope early on to put together an alternative power system to go along with the ham radio system. I hope to have a package unit that'll have just enough solar to power batteries to be able to have communication, period. If you can't afford that, to have alternative, put together a system that will take care of the whole house or whatever, at least you can have minimum of communication, whether that be the ham radio or a telephone or whatever. And I hope to have it available with wholesale accounts to where I can learn right along with y'all. I don't think none of y'all have ham radio, do you? So we're going to learn that one together. I don't either. I know it's been mandated by the Lord that we have it at our business here and our place down south. Communication's key. With communication and being able to communicate clearly, it's put you in a place of leadership. Absolutely. I mean, think about this: if you could communicate by radio, and you had loved ones in China or mine are in Dallas or whatever, think what value that would be worth in an environment where people around you didn't know about their family or loved ones or whatever. I mean, that alone could sustain you in barter value. And so it's about the number one thing that I want to go after as a group. Encourage y'all to get, but I want to get the least expensive. I mean, a kind of a uniform system that will reach the furthest, and I don't even know how much that's going to be yet. So, but alternative power. For those of y'all that don't know me, the Lord provided for us. We have a place down south about an hour. Like I said, it's in Kansas, that has its own natural gas well, straight from the Lord, right out of the ground. That when we're released to start developing that property, we'll have, it'll be easy for generators and be able to pump water or whatever. Security. I know a lot of y'all are looking forward to honing in on being able to take care of your own personal security. Any of y'all have that taken care of already?
Firearms.
You got it already?
You have the 3 firearms you need.
You good at using it?
I practice on all of them.
Good for you. Yeah. Have you taken any training as far as setting up a security system? I mean, I'm not talking security system like in Sentry or whatever. I'm talking more like being able to guard the perimeter of a place that's important to you or somebody around you. Have you done any of that?
No, but my teacher who taught the conceal and carry class, he teaches groups of guys to do that kind of stuff. So, once I'm ready to, I would absolutely tap into that.
Okay. Medical, that's a broad subject. There's some people that they say that you ask them if they've got years advanced prescriptions or whatever, and anyway, you're not supposed to be able to do that, but you can. You can, and you don't have to go to Canada or whatever. You just get a second doctor. That's what I did. And so I only have one prescription I have to take. but I got my 2 years in advance. We're still working on the other year and a half now, but just get a second doctor to give it to you and just store it. So finances, I think y'all know that I'm involved in that as a business. A couple of y'all do. You hadn't been to the warehouse, have you?
No, I have.
Have you? Did you do a tour at the warehouse?
Yeah.
When did you go?
Twice. Right after George Carlson started there. I went there with you guys, and then when we came in, we brought like 50 people from like intro and
You were there with Neil Kind and
Yeah.
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 Yeah, okay. Yeah, if you were with that group, yeah, you've heard a lot of my stories and stuff. I remember spending several hours with them.
Yeah.
Okay. Sanitation is something most people don't think about, but it's really important in the city. They'd have a bunch of trash bags. You know, you can literally get on the internet and get a toilet seat that snaps onto a 5-gallon bucket.
That's awesome.
And they're not expensive. It's less than $20.
That's a good idea.
So
Like what,
with a
Amazon?
5-gallon bucket, one of those lids, and a few cases of 10 or 12-gallon trash bags, you can be sanitary for quite a while. I would also encourage you to get some. If you have a fireplace, save the wood ash. If you don't have a fireplace, get some lime, because lime will break it all down, or wood ash does the same thing. A lot of people don't think about security of all their documents like birth certificates, you know, and all that kind of stuff. What happened if you had to evacuate your house in 30 minutes? How would, do you have a document and stuff ready to go? Anyway, after we go through all these topics in detail, I hope that a few weeks, a few months from now, that y'all will be able to teach others, be able to take a set of notes and a few pictures and be able to go after it. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm going to start showing y'all just some stuff that we've done. Now go back to the,
I don't know why I did
it
that.
jumped on one. This picture right here is just Grace and I. We lived in Timberlake Apartments, just down from IHOP. Most of y'all know where that is. So yeah, we went from 300 acres to 1,100 square feet. And we had a 2-bedroom apartment there for 5.5 years. Well, right outside our door, we lived in a building. We just rolled in at ground level, but it was on the side of a hill to where we had an apartment under us. But right off of our railing, there, it dropped down about 12 feet, and on a deep slant, there was 150 square feet of dirt that they hadn't landscaped. And so we went and asked them if we could garden, and they said, sure. And so anyway, this is one day's harvest from our garden. Go to the next one. Yeah, the next 10 slides that we're going to do, we'll go through them pretty quick. Man, why is it jumping? Go back to the other one. Yeah, this next 10 slides are going to be just different things that we've done. We'll go through them pretty quick. But that slide right there is we took like it's called hog panel. It's kind of like concrete wire mesh, just a little thicker. But we took half sheets of hog wire and tied it from the top of the fence rail up to the gutter of the roof in order to make a vertical frame to be able to grow vines. And what we did down below, as you'll see in other slides, there was we planted seeds like we planted cantaloupe, cucumbers, watermelon, green beans, just everything viney. And vining plants, they'll grow more than just 6 feet tall. I mean, people put them on 6 feet frames, and but they'll just keep going and going. Anyway, yeah, go to the next one. As you can see that's that same frame later in the season. Vines have grown down from from like 12 feet down and grown up. And I mean, most people think that cantaloupe won't hold the fruit if you grow them vertically, but that's cantaloupe. We grew cantaloupe. And when you grow it, and it's kind of like a principle of faith principle, that when you trust the plant to hold the fruit, it grows strong enough to do it. But if you just leave it on the ground, like most people growing cantaloupe, it takes up 120 square feet, just going all over the place, and the vine stays weak, and it wouldn't hold anything. So our cantaloupe plants took 6 square inches. I mean, just right to the ground. I mean, and we planted them real close together, but they grew vertical. Okay, go ahead. So anyway, this is just the street view of the same thing. And those buckets that we had, you can just leave it there. Hopefully it doesn't keep going. Yeah, go backwards. Go back. Another one. That bucket that you can see hanging from the vertical frame, we planted tomato plants upside down. Have y'all seen that before?
No.
Yeah, anyway, it worked. So go ahead. Well, that's before the vines grew. That you can see how slanted it is. Go back. You can see how slanted the ground is and how it's not very much of it, but still, I mean, it was incredible what we grew in that little bit of space. The little wire cages, we make our own tomato cages, because the ones you buy at the store, those little wire, they're just nowhere near big enough. Tomato plants will outgrow those fast. We just make ours out of concrete wire mesh. Okay, go ahead, Sandy. That's a view from the side. It got to where the management of the apartment complex, every prospective tenant, they'd bring them by and show them our garden. They were bragging on their community how both flexible they were, but how their tenants cared about what they were doing and blah blah. So go to the next picture. Anyway, that right there. There's like 10 different things there. There's like 2 of those long cucumbers. I mean, it's just 10 different things that we grew. Figure out where I am on here. Okay, go to the next one. Sandy was involved with that picture. I think you took that picture, didn't you, Sandy?
I think so.
That was back, I think, in '09. Yeah, go back. We moved to a small house over in Brookside. I don't know if you know what Brookside is, but we had like a 100-year-old house. Little bitty lot. Didn't have hardly any garden space, but right here we planted cantaloupe in pots and just let it grow vertically onto the fence rail. Okay, go down. I think that's Santa in that shot. But that spot that we're looking at right there, to show you how wonderful nature is. Most time people will tell you need full sun to grow plants. Well, in that spot right there was only like 3 feet between the garage and the fence. It only got 2 to 3 hours of sun a day, but it's still, look how good it grew. That's cucumbers right there. Okay, good. What we have growing there, I don't know exactly what it is, but it was we just made it was a gravel bed, and we pulled the gravel back. We had a little raised space that was 8 inches deep by 6 feet long, and 8 feet long. We put 2 vertical frames in there just to give the plant something to grow up, and we were able to grow a bunch of stuff. We had cucumbers one year and tomatoes the next, so you don't have to have a lot of space. I believe growing vertically is the way to have abundant production, because I mean all of the plants take up so little space. It just takes like just a few square inches. We even found a spinach that is it's a vining spinach. I think I told you.
Yeah.
You found it? Malabar spinach. I like the Rupra, R-U-P-R-A version of it. It's a red stem spinach. but it vines and it's huge. One plant will fill up. Well, ours grew and filled up a frame 50 inches wide, 6 feet high. And it loves full sun, like the regular spinach is just cold weather spinach, but it loves full sun. So, okay, go to the next one. Okay, and I just wanted to show y'all, these are that's kind of a artist's drawing of the raised beds. The Lord gave me a design for raised beds. They're 30 inches high, 4 feet wide, and as long as you want to make them, they come in 4-foot lengths. But we actually manufacture the metal frames for them. But what it does, it makes gardening a joy instead of a. I mean, you don't have to bend over. If you build it 30 inches high, it takes a little more water, but you don't have to. You don't have to bend over anything. It makes it user friendly, and you'll end up getting a lot more food out of each square foot. Go ahead to the next one.
How deep is the
Here
soil?
again, I'm just showing,
How deep was the soil in those?
30 inches deep.
That much soil in it, huh?
Yeah, put it all the way down. That way the earthworms come up through it.
Oh, yeah.
When I garden, I put 3 to 4 inches of fresh compost on all the beds every year. If you do that faithfully, I mean, you can turn bad soil into great soil within just a couple of years. But the earthworms do it for you. They come up to get the organic matter.
So the bottom's open? Or-
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Now, yeah, and I just take out the weeds and the sod and everything. I mean, but even a weed isn't going to be able to grow through 30 inches of soil. I mean, yeah, I don't think you have to put a weed mat.
We looked into hugelkulture, where they put logs in the bottom so they just decompose and do all kinds of good stuff to the soil.
Yeah, we've done it. I've done it.
And you
It's
get
cool.
some free firewood or something, and you don't have to buy. With less soil, you have to buy.
Yeah, I've done it. I prefer square foot gardening just because of the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta have the cord, burn it, move in all that stuff. If you have to do it by hand, it's a lot of work to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Go to the next one. Now, like I said, I just wanted to pique your interest. As far as storing and not having much space, this drum you see right here is a hazmat drum. In that drum, it's 55 gallons of acetic acid. For Grace and I and my health issues, we have to have cleanse a lot of stuff. Like I have a urine bag on my leg and things like that we have to be able to use vinegar to treat. And so I needed like over 1,000 gallons of vinegar in order to have enough for the time frame that we're talking about. So we didn't have the space at the time to be able to store 4 pallets of vinegar. So I went and got 1 drum of the pure acetic acid. Vinegar is 5% vinegar to water, and so with that we can make 1,100 gallons. I'm just saying that when you're thinking about what you're doing, don't let anything deter you. I mean, you're only limited by your imagination when it comes to barriers. Go to the next one. Same thing with this drum here. It's a smaller drum. It's like a 35-gallon drum, but it's a concentrated detergent, laundry detergent. When you buy laundry, like a powder at the store or even a liquid, most of the liquid or the powder is a carrying agent. And in powder detergent, over 90% of the detergent, the volume is salt. And it melts away as just a carrying agent to distribute everything out. So with this one little drum, I was able to have enough detergent for 20 people for 2 years. Go ahead. And just to pique your interest on what we could do as far as buying together, I have contacts with overstock of canned goods with canning manufacturers. That's where this stuff comes from. I mean, I get like canned green beans for most of the time for 30, 40 cents a can, where they're you can get off-brand sometimes on special for 33 cents, but not very often. I'm talking about being able to get them by the pallet, their corn for 50 cents or whatever. I just want to, as far as being able to buy wholesale and to be able to store up, you don't have to have a lot of money to do it. Okay, go ahead. It's just another picture of some different canned goods. Go ahead and go to the next one. Same thing with tools. I mean, like to do canning, you have to have pressure cookers. We can also get the grain grinders, water filters, anything. I'm talking just about anything that you're going to need to do preparation or food storage. We will be able to do and get it for you wholesale through a lot of the connections that we had. Okay, next. This, for me, is something I aspire to. We have a place in the country, we have a traditional above ground house. We got the place, we didn't build a house, and so it just came to us 10 years after the guy built it, but we got a call from a guy that was in Egypt asking if we wanted to take it over. It's fixing to be lost to foreclosure. But a dome home is what I aspire to. I love these things. They're the strength. Have y'all ever looked into them?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I've been doing a lot of research on them.
They're really not that expensive to build, but the strength of a dome structure is just well documented. It's incredible. I want to have one that only a third of the mass is above ground. I want to build like 2 levels underground. But okay, go next. Anyway, I am really big on destiny. I have been all of my life, but especially since I was shot. I nearly didn't live, but I believe there's a reason that it's not coincidence that you're here listening now. I think that you're feeling drawn into preparation for a reason. It might begin and started with fear. Fear is a good motivator and a good driver, but personally, I purpose to combat fear, help combat fear in people, and bring a sense of confidence and draw you into the possibility that God can do some big stuff through you for both yourselves, your families, and the people around you by just educating and drawing you in, and to just invite you to and challenge you to believe, figure out how many people for how long, but just to believe it. And that you don't have to have a victim mentality, you can have a victor mentality, that you can, through the goodness of God and your own, some of your own efforts and His blessing, that you can choose to be a victor. And point the finger and point all of the credit to Him, and just get a good blessing out of it. Just let everything you do be predicated on action. Now, in the handouts that I gave y'all, you had the vision for you had the PTW network vision. I showed y'all the letter that's Food for a City and Beyond. That's really the vision for our business. You can read it, and it's kind of self-explanatory. It's calling our business in to be able to take the place of being a go-to supply house for a city in desperate need, but it can also just show what good people can do with a little vision, a little purpose, that it can bring exponential return to the people that invest in the food. I mean, catching it, because I feel like I'm kind of rambling about that. Ed, can you imagine if, as a storehouse, were known to be the go-to source, the leverage that would be in the day when that food is needed, how much exponential return that would bring on investment would be like Joseph. I mean, we don't want to take anybody into slavery, but we want to really get good return on investment. But then, as far as destiny goes, the third sheet is the conception of a child. A few years ago, I had the awesome blessing, privilege, whatever, of being able to experience and see all of heaven celebrate the proclamation of the destiny of a child just conceived. On that sheet, what you see in yellow, that's my way of highlighting what Jesus said to me and how he described the picture. A lot of times when I have encounters, I'll see something, and then the voice of the Lord generally is behind my left shoulder and tells me what I'm looking at. But I think it just put an exclamation point for me on the fact that we all do have a destiny. It comes to us as early as the moment, right at the moment of conception. And so I just challenge you to embrace yours. Ooh, one thing in one of the encounters that I was told was that less than 1% of humanity, of humans, reach fulfillment of their destiny, or the purpose they were created for. It's that the way the Lord works with man is that the Trinity, Father God, Holy Spirit, and Jesus, they give us the next step, inviting us to take a faith step towards fulfillment of that step, and that's all they give us. And that if we act on the step that we're given, whether we see, regardless of whether we see tangible confirmation of that step or supply or provision for that step, we act in faith, then we're given the next step to go after that. If we don't, then we don't get the next step. We can go all of our lives waiting on taking that step. So I encourage y'all that if you're given a step, take it, because you'll get the next one. Now, I want to find out and open up for talking now what y'all's deepest concerns are, what you're most interested in learning, what I mean, I can go on my own knowledge or whatever. I can decide what comes first and what I want to start showing you guys, but I almost sense an urgency, and some of you to really get some of this stuff down pat. So we can't cover everything at once. I mean, generally I could probably take one of you and spend an hour at a time, over the next few weeks, and one of you at a time, and get you equipped pretty quick. But I can't do it with a room full of people or anybody on tape. So what do you have the most urgency over? What do you want to cover first? Give me some feedback on that.
I guess when we met last time a couple days ago, you had mentioned that you feel that things are going to start happening soon. I mean, like, in terms of even in a couple of months. So for me, I don't know, because every week we're going to kind of just go in deeper in different subjects. Is there any way to kind of put together, go over a plan so I could start, even implementation, for what's coming? And maybe that means just meeting with you privately, just like a plan for myself. That's kind of what I want, that I can just right away implement.
Yeah, I've done this in the past. I've done consulting, which people that had the wherewithal to get something done. You know, I would take people, I would ask them where they were now, where they wanted to go, and together we'd map out a place, you know, a path to get there. It doesn't have to take a long time, given funds and time and location. I mean, there's some people, they relocate and they jump on preparation with both feet and they get it done. Not a lot of people have that as an option. So depending on your pace and what you want to put into it, I mean, I can help you. If you've only got $25 or $30 a month, I can help you prioritize that too. So,
Do you feel that it's important that every household have everything themselves, or can you do it as a community, like with multiple households and different people store different things, or is it better to be self-sufficient as a house?
you need to cover the basics of the house because, like I said, I mean, if civil unrest came, you would not want to be getting out of your house. And I mean, some people, like single guys that would rather take on out in the woods or something like that. I mean, they have that option, but if you have a family or you got loved ones or whatever, you're not going to want to take that route. You're going to need to hunker down. So, with that said, at least for a short period of time, I don't think any chaos will last forever. I think it'll be peaks and valleys that you might have unrest for a few days, few weeks, and then some kind of order would return. You need to be able to hold out where you are for a short period of time. Yeah.
I think a important discussion would be to talk about the specifics of like what our emergency looks like for Kansas City. Because, like, for example, I went through Hurricane Andrew. I know exactly what that's like. And so I could prepare for a hurricane really well, but we're not going to have a hurricane here, right? So probably not a big earthquake, you know, so it's like everything, you know, like for Hurricane Andrew, one thing that no one ever thought about was when every tree in your neighborhood's on the ground, you can't drive anywhere for a long time because every 3 feet of the street's got a big tree laying on it. And you just don't think of that. You know, you can think of water, food, all kinds of stuff. And you can think of having a generator, but where are you going to get more gas, you know, when you run out?
You think about it ahead of time.
Yeah. So anyway, my point is, what would we specifically encounter in Kansas City? And I think looking at what the possible emergencies are helps me get my mind around. You know, I have my ideas, but I'd love to hear more input, and I'd love to have a conversation that talks about what specific events are we really planning for.
That depends on what y'all want to discuss. I mean, for me, I cover the basics first. If you got medical needs, prescriptions, you do that. You cover the food, the water. You cover your basics first, and then you start going after the exotic stuff. If you want to, what I call exotic is like a generator, and then if you got a generator, get a few barrels of fuel. Or, I mean, what would you plan on first?
I don't know.
What would you prepare for first? What would be your highest priority? That's why I opened up this conversation.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, what do y'all want to learn about first?
Well, you know what I shared with you earlier, I talked to 2 different guys since that night that were non-Christians, that I just got rocked with the need for security.
That's why I have an overall question. Like, you can do all this prep and have at your house, but if it's chaos, you can come up with a number, how many for how long, but if there's chaos, people will just come and get everything that you have. So you know, so what do you do?
If
What's
you're
the point of like,
if you're prepared to let them do that.
Well, personally, why I want to come to the group, if I can chime in on this, is, I mean, I'm connected with a lot of guys that are heavily armed. I work with contractors, military contractors, and that's their mindset, is they'll go take. And a lot of these guys are actually even proclaiming conservative Christian. So it tells you the mindset that people will go through, especially if they see their children. So for me, when we talk about a nearsighted vision, where it's just personal preparation in my own home, but no tribal community, no sustainable long-term vision, my heart's not in it. Now, if someone, my heart is saying, okay, let's come together. I work with a lot of different people in small-scale garden farms, say. So we know that on 1/4 of an acre, we can provide the needs for 4 people very easily. I mean, and very quickly we can build these homestead models. So it'd be awesome to come together in a group and say, hey, we understand that he lives 30 minutes from me. He has no tribal community in his neighborhood. He's by himself with his AK, his Glock, and his 3 years of food supply. He's now become a target, and he's separated from a pack. So anybody that has a pack that's heavily armed, that's easy pickings. You see what I mean? So
If there's a group of them, most of the people can find and look for 10 reasons why not to do anything. I say I'm going to find the one reason to do it. I'm still going to fall to action. I am not going to go to the default of saying I'm not going to do anything because some guy might try to come get it.
Right.
I'm just not. I mean, who right now in the middle of Kansas City can pull up and go get land and be on it with the community? It's just not plausible for anybody. So what do? Just take the victim mentality? I say no. I'm not going to do that. I will be in a group like this people, and I'm going to talk to Santi, and hopefully, we can come up with that community. Hopefully. You get enough like-minded people that are willing to put resources together and to become that and to get a common vision and a common goal and some bylaws to come together. That's not as easy as just, singing a good Kumbaya song either. I mean, that is complicated. You already tried to be with some people before, and it was hard and difficult. Yeah. That is what you aspired to, but having the community and everything you're talking about.
No, you
But
just see
I mean, you
the fear that
aspire
comes
to
in.
it.
The fear comes in really quick.
Well, it does,
Yeah.
but you can't. I say I can't default to nothing until I have that.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not arguing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying long-term vision, because if you're by yourself, just personally, like logistically, unto what? That's just the question I have is unto what? What's the kingdom perspective of, okay, I have all this food supply, I've got my preps in place, but why do I want to live unto what? And that's what I wrestle with. So that's where the kingdom
point.
perspective of restoration mindset of saying, okay, if I were to partner with Yeshua and he's coming down, he's going to radically restore every sphere of influence. I really think there's going to be an understanding of how to steward creation and humanity in the way he intended. And so that's what the perspective I have. I was like, I don't have a desire to make it through the tribulation with the prepper mindset. It's more of a mindset of, okay, Lord, what are you going to do when you come back? And how are we going to be matured to level to partner with you? And I think it's directly connected to stewardship of land, livestock, and resource, and how we distribute that and how we steward that as a community, as a tribal community, as his children. And so that's where there's always this constant wrestle I have.
Don't know what you're preparing for, so you have to give yourself as much variety and cover the bases as much as you can. I mean, Sure, you'd love to have fresh food. Are you gonna have that capability though? I prepare as if I have to use the dry stuff exclusively. That's why I have canned goods. I mean, the stored stuff. But then I've got the seed too, hoping I'll be able to grow. Yeah.
One thing that struck my mind when I saw your list and food was at the top, and what I thought when I saw that was, yeah, that's my flesh's response to, it's an emergency, what do you need? My flesh just cries, first thing on my mind is food. I need food. But that's not the truth. There was like 5 things on that list that are more important than food. And, you know, water, yes, but even more important than water, communication and security are above water even. And I'm just realizing that my flesh cries out, and I want to listen to that because it's a powerful urge. And even if you ask the question, what do you guys want to talk about? I think where I personally want to land on that answer is, I don't want to talk about what I feel like I want to talk about. I want to have wisdom to say, let's look at the actual scenario and what does Jeff, I want someone who's an expert to tell me, Jeff, this is really what needs to come first. Because I might cry out, oh yeah, I need food. You don't need food. You need, you know, security, communication, water. Don't even waste your time storing food. You can go 30 days without food if you had to. I mean, if you're down to that wire, but you're not going to go, you know, so we're not going to go a week without water. So let's put water in front of food. You're not going to go, you know, 2 days without getting, you know, especially where we live, how many, you know, crazy-minded kids and young people and hoodlums are around us, or adults that are, you know, that just say, I'll do whatever I want. That's all my neighbors. I mean, I literally have an immediate threat of, I would guess, 50 people within a 300-foot radius of my house that I would have to worry about if they knew I had stuff. If they didn't know, then that's, so
They might come down.
camouflage becomes a major need. You know, how
It
we
goes
call
back
it.
to one of the early slides. It says you don't know what you don't know. Like I'm a very beginner. Like I'm just learning about this. I haven't done any prep stuff for the most part. So you're saying, like, yeah, I need someone to tell me, like, hey, what do I need?
Right.
Like what's
Baby
really like
steps.
pressing the hierarchy, you know, the priorities.
I have a garden, but I have a corner house, and the fence is very low, and the city won't let me put up any, you know, 6-foot
Big.
fence. So.
They won't let you?
Grandview is ridiculous.
Yeah, they're really ridiculous.
Especially on a corner house, you have to be how many feet back from the easement, you know.
We've gotten pretty busted by Grandview. for
So
every-
I have a garden, but it's an open
That's what you
view,
look right now.
you know, I'm like.
I do, but we're not doing any gardening because the rules are so farm. We got in trouble for goats too. Little baby goats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chickens.
Really?
Yeah, we got.
Looks like you could have a big, huge dog that weighs 150 pounds,
Yeah.
but you can't have a
So
40
we went on
pound.
4 acres. I was
And
on
a goat
4
doesn't
acres.
even
and
bark.
They tracked us down
Wow.
and started fining us. So we
Oh
had to get rid
my
of
gosh.
dwarf goats.
Why don't you bring them inside? Tell them they're your pets.
I don't know. They're pretty intense.
My neighbor has a donkey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I'm in South Kansas City.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
not in
Kansas
Maryland.
City's different. There's a lot of
Yeah.
forerunners in Kansas City that are breaking through all those little bylaws and
Yeah,
bureaucratic.
she lives in Terrace Lakes.
Oh cool.
I got
Right.
4 acres too. It's in Kansas City though.
Yeah, Kansas City's a lot more lenient.
Yeah.
Yeah, like my house, I put up the solar array, so it's like a target now. You know, nobody
Right.
else has a solar array in the neighborhood,
For
so I
real?
feel like it's a target. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so I have to figure out how to. You can't really camouflage it. You saw it, Terry. It's a
Oh,
monster.
there
It's
is no
bigger than my
way.
house.
Oh my God.
That's where, like, for example.
It takes up her
Oh,
whole
yeah.
backyard.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
117 solar panels.
But it shows you
I counted them.
community. My buddy has that same setup. But he has like maybe even bigger than that in the ghetto of ghettos off 12th and Myrtle.
Who is-
Jason.
Okay.
Yeah,
you mean
the urban farming guys.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like
okay.
what?
Did they get that government?
Yeah,
paid
it's
thing?
like a $200,000 solar system in the middle of Scrap City.
Yeah.
But God
So
converted the scrappers, and guess who lives at his house? Some of the head thieves and scrappers.
Nice.
So God has a way of supernaturally, naturally protecting your stuff.
Yeah,
And
he's talking
community.
about the urban.
Yeah, urban farming.
I was just down there this morning. I mean,
Did Edward?
Yeah,
and
the
Kevin build it
Glazers,
for them?
yeah,
they built mine
yeah.
too. I think I talked with you before, Santi.
Yeah.
Kevin had referred me to talk
Oh,
to you
really?
over the phone. Like it was a while ago.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to a lot of people about gardening. It's hard to remember. But that's where the Lord's taught me a lot by watching the dynamics of the inner city and how important tribal community is,
Yeah.
and for safety. So and they operate like that. I mean, and God has an amazing covering over them. And there's bullet holes in trees. I mean, you hear gunshots. I mean, but there's the 80% of the crime has dropped on that 2-block radius where they're at. There's a supernatural grace of protection, but it's also because they're directly connected to the very thieves and criminals are being converted. And now those skill sets that they were...
If you're talking about tribal cities, you
Yeah.
need to convert your neighbors first for
Yeah.
non-believers, because
Yeah.
otherwise a tribal thing wouldn't help.
That's
Wouldn't
where...
work.
I've looked I'm connected with people in other countries that are doing it, and it's much more effective because they're already in a third world setting. So it's already predisposed to kind of that tribal atmosphere.
Right.
So here we're in a Western kind of culture that makes it very difficult to make that transition. And so I've partnered with multiple different groups consulting, from YWAMs to ministries, and usually if there's an issue with scarcity, I mean, there's people that don't have resources, there's one person that does have resources, it just causes all these crazy dynamics, and it usually is unsuccessful. And so that's why I think having a long-term vision is so important than just what are we going to do in our own home.